I believe that you'll get out of this fine, but not fast. And so I ask you never to forget Yeats's line, "Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart." That's what I would say to the politicians. Got to cut back on the spending and make a tough decision, and it's going to be a couple of years. Tell the people the truth. Do what has to be done. You can't endanger your credit. People have to believe you'll pay your bills. And then say how we will get out of this. If the government can no longer spend more than it takes in the world we live in, and stimulate our way out of this, which may not work anyway if you look at the Japanese experience in the last decade, what will? How are we going to do it? Biggest danger I see in the world today and in my own country when I hear people talking about this is not making a stone of the heart, it's making a stone of the head. You know, when you've got the walls closing in on you and you're under great stress, it's more important than ever to think. When the temperature turns up, the people who want to make a difference have to cool down. This is a highly complex mess we're living through. Perhaps no one who ever made any decisions in the last 20 years is 100% blameless in whatever happened. But there is nothing wrong with us that we can't fix. When we come out of it on the other side, however, we need to understand that the societies that work best allow people to do fabulously well in finance because of what they finance. New businesses and new jobs and new opportunities and new dreams and a sustainable path to future. When we come out of this, we all have to be alive to our shared responsibilities to keep widening the circle of prosperity and opportunity so that you really can expand the market without having to turn it into a casino. That is the great challenge of the modern world, how to reduce its instabilities and increase its opportunities. How to spread prosperity and reduce, not increase, inequality. I am on balance quite optimistic, but I have spent now a decade after being president looking at countries in ways that presidents and very often CEOs don't see. Not very long ago, I was visiting this climate change project we have in a remote part of Tanzania, down by the ocean, in an area where most people live on well under $2 a day. And a young university graduate Tanzanian man, whom we hired to run our project, went down there to talk to people in this very poor area. There was no school for 20 miles, about planting trees and how they could earn carbon credits. And he explained the system to them. And would they like to, what trees, how would we work it? Here's what I want to tell you. I would have thought he would immediately have gone down there because these people are so poor and talked to them about how here's a way that your farming habits can earn you some money. He totally refused to do that. He insisted they spend one whole day in a place where there wasn't a single soul who'd ever been to school more than 2 years talking about climate change and the historic African sense of obligation to preserve the earth and why it mattered more now. He did not patronize his people. He honored them by telling them the truth in words they could understand. Then he gave all the farmers a choice. In the 2 other communities we were working in, they chose to grow citrus or mango because they can leave the trees up, sink deep roots, resist soil erosion, and earn money every year. These people live in an area which is open. They were baking, and it's very hot all the time. Everybody lives in a hut made of mud or brick, and they were so hot. And they said, can we grow any kind of tree that we can partly harvest so we can make ourselves some houses of wood and be cooler? And so we found them a fast-growing tree. After only 2 years, the people were sitting under the branches of this little tree that had already grown this much. And we agreed on a harvesting schedule and the carbon credits. So then my young employee says to the village people, now you have to decide how to divide your income. Keep in mind, none of these people have ever made more than $2 a day in their life. None of them have ever had any formal schooling to speak of. You know how they voted to divide the money? They wanted to take 55% of their earnings and have it distributed to all the families involved. Each one has, on average, 1 acre they grow trees on. And they wanted to save 45% of it. They didn't want to spend 100% of the money so that more of the villagers could have an acre to grow trees on and they could widen prosperity. They have nothing, and they had enough sense to do that. They didn't want anger and jealousy to get in. They didn't want to be limited in who would buy the food they grow or who would buy the vegetables that they bring in or anything else. They knew instinctively that there had to be a role for everyone in this prosperity. I ask you to think about that. Second thing I want to say is I talked about the passion Loretta has for this work, how essential Declan is to continue America's role in helping Northern Ireland's prosperity. What Denis has done when there were no cameras and nobody was looking, and he could have put up a good show, made a nice contribution, and never gone to Miami and Haiti and God only knows where else to meet with all these business people and tell them we have to do more there to build an economy. They're all examples of something. I spend a lot of time trying to study this economy and understand what societies do best. The most successful societies in the world today have a great private sector and a strong commitment to responsible growth. They have not a big, bureaucratic, overbearing government, but a strong, effective, focused one that does what governments have to do, and without which you can't build a successful and sustainable economy. And finally, they have a vigorous system of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, people who just step into the breach that is always there between what the private sector can produce and what a government can provide, even in the best of times. I mentioned in Northern Ireland, you know, there's been a big upsurge in this terrible economic crisis and youth suicide up there. And there's no way you could have enough, in the budget crisis facing the government, enough workers to go out and personally give therapy to and counseling to and just personal contact to every at-risk kid in the main range where this occurs. Somebody's got to do that. If you want the 21st century to be the story of now the Celtic tiger's reemergence, if you want people all over the world to admire Ireland 40 years ago as they do today. I just said in a previous meeting at the UCD that Ireland is the only country in the world where every single day since the founding of the United Nations, some Irish citizen has been on the soil of another country, serving humanity to keep something bad from happening or to make something good happen. No other country on earth can lay claim to that legacy. And everybody who knows it admires you and is grateful. If you want that to be the case 40 years from now, then we got to get out of this fix we're in here. So does my country. We have to be clear-headed. We have to be tough-minded. We have to make hard decisions. And right now, it's more important that we not make a stone of our heads, even than we not make a stone of our hearts. We have to think, analyze. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And if we have to eat the bitter medicine of further restriction to meet the budget deficit targets, then we must simultaneously have a strategy about where there will be an infusion of new investment to create the new jobs and to bring back as many old ones as we can and to bring hope again. You can't do both. I mean, you can't do one without the other.